basketball analysis with over 70 years combined experience.
The Bob Ryan and Jeff Goodman podcast is brought to you by Prizepicks and the Gametime app.
Bob Ryan, Gary Tanguay podcast on CLNS Media is brought to you by Prizepicks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network. Pick more, pick less with Prizepicks. Bob, some big trades in the NBA this week. Got us thinking, well, specifically the Luka Anthony Davis deal. Also the Spurs and the Kings made a deal. But it got us thinking, in your 50 years of covering the league, the biggest deals you have seen, and of course, where does this Luka one rank?
This trade is a multiplayer trade, but it isn't really in our estimation. No offense to all these peripheral players, but in mind, we're only interested in the fact that this was a Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis exchange. High-level, upper echelon players, more than likely 2 Hall of Fame players down the road. More than likely, it should play out that way, I would think. Okay, so it brings the question: what have we ever seen like anything like this before in the NBA? And the trades that came immediately to mind are the fact that both Wilt Chamberlain and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar were traded at one point in their career. And
I thought of those two guys when this deal was made.
Wilt was traded twice. Now, the first Wilt trade was in January 15th, 1965. We're coming up to the 60th anniversary, in which Wilt Chamberlain was traded from San Francisco Warriors to Philadelphia, the 76ers, for Paul Newman, that's N-E-U, not the one that you know, not the guy who'll be on TV tonight and Butch Cassidy, Connie Durkin, and Lee Schaffer, which was spelled S-H-A-F-F-E-R, and cash. Okay? Those guys were Newman was a good player, played 7 years, and then retired early. A good guard. Lee Schaffer was an interesting guy. Was out of North Carolina, only played 3 years, and after this trade was made, he never played again. He did not report. He retired. I don't know. There was some reason. I don't know the reason, but there was a reason, obviously. So they didn't get anything out of him. And then there was Connie Durkin, who was a career backup center, and that's that. So that's the first time Wilt was traded. Clearly, not much on return for the Warriors, right? Very little. The second time Wilt was traded was in the offseason of 78. On July 9th, 1968, he was traded to the Lakers. This made some news. He was traded for 3 players: Jerry Chambers, Archie Clark, and Darryl Imhoff.
I remember 2 out of the 3.
Jerry Chambers was a 6'4" guy whose greatest claim to fame was that he was the most valuable player in the 1966 NCAA tournament as a member of the 4th place team. That's the famous Kentucky Texas Western game. But Utah finished 3rd, and Jerry Chambers was the most valuable player in the tournament. He's a guard. He had a 10-year. He had a mediocre NBA career. Archie Clark was, I would say, trying to think of a proper level, damn good player, Archie Clark. And he's the guy that famously was made famous when Sonny Hill, the famous Philadelphia broadcaster and man about town, talked about his move and called him Shake and Bake. That's where Shake and Bake comes from. Have you ever heard that?
I remember Sonny Hill, but I didn't remember that.
Reference to Archie Clark. And the third was Darryl Imhoff, who was a backup center whose greatest claim to fame in his career was that he made the winning basket in the 1959 NCAA tournament with a tip-in at the buzzer to beat California to beat West Virginia. He was 6'10", 6'11", blonde hair, and a mediocre player. What's interesting, I did the math on this. I'll do the first thing. Okay. Now, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was traded as he had made the name change, and he was traded. Bob,
as you do that, I'm going to read this quick commercial for Prizepicks. You can look that up, my friend. We are brought to you by Prizepicks, the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings. Prizepicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prizepicks. So the big game is almost here, so it's now or never. Don't miss out on the last football game of the season with Prizepicks, the best place to win cash while watching the big game. Prizepicks is also giving away a free pick for the contest, where one of the starting quarterbacks will only need to throw 1 yard to win. If you're correct, at least one or more stat projection, you can win real cash. And check out the promos tab to tail any of the Super Sweat Millie winners' big game lineups. If you tail a lineup that goes 3 for 3, you can win a split of $1 million in promo funds. So, Prizepicks, the best way to win real money this football season. Who's going to go off in the Super Bowl? I mean, everybody, Kelsey, right? More or less than 2 touchdowns. What do you think? Make your picks all season long coming up on Prizepicks. So download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Sorry. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prizepicks, run your game. Okay, Bob, where were we?
Okay, we're talking about Lou Alcindor. Now, this is very interesting. Kareem he had made the name change after his rookie year. Okay, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in 1975 has now played 6 years for the Bucks. He has won 1 championship in 1971, his second year, and he has lost in the finals to the Celtics in 74. They got Western Conference Finals a couple of other times. He's 28 years old. He's the best center in the league now. Wilt has retired. There's no question who the best center in the league is. Mose Malone is not yet asserted himself. It's Kareem. He doesn't have. There's no free agency, so it doesn't exist yet.
Right.
But he somehow used whatever leverage he could exert to force Milwaukee or to lean on Milwaukee to trade him. He went out of Milwaukee. He didn't want to live there anymore. By the way, he just didn't. Okay, so they come up with a deal with the Lakers, and he was traded for 4 players who were Elmore Smith,
Ryan
Winters, Dave Myers, and Junior Bridgman. Now, Elmore Smith, for people, he's not a name that's lasted in NBA history, so our younger fans here need a little bit of a background on Elmore. Elmore was a 7-footer out of Kentucky Wesleyan who started out with Buffalo and was a shot blocker. When they put the rule in, they found us counting them. The ABA counted them and the NBA didn't. When the NBA finally started counting shot blocks, Elmore Smith set a record that I think, I have to check, it still stands. He blocked 17 in the game. They gave him credit for 17. We'll never know how many Wilt and Russell blocked in their day because they didn't count them. But anyway, he was okay. He wasn't a bad player.
He played with Ernie D and those guys, right? And Randy Smith.
Big issue, in my opinion, he didn't love playing basketball. He didn't have a fire in his belly. He was the original guy, 7-foot guy, walking down the corridor in high school, and the coach said, "Hey, you should come out for the basketball team." He was very staunchly religious. He was too nice. He didn't have a fire. Okay, that's Elmore Smith. Brian Winters was a shooting guard out of South Carolina. Had an 11-year run in the league. Scored a career total of 10,537 points. So he was pretty good. Okay. Dave Myers is a fascinating story. He was a great forward at UCLA. Won a championship. Played with Alcindor, and at this point, had played 6 or 7 years in the league. And after they traded for him, he abruptly retired very quickly. And he's Annie Myers' brother, big brother, by the way.
I didn't know that.
Myers Drysdale's big brother. Yes. Okay. And then there's Junior Bridgman, who was an excellent player, a 6-man supreme, out of Louisville. And he averaged, he was a really good player, a nice player.
No, I remember him.
Also, Junior Bridgman is arguably the most astute, successful businessman ever to play in the NBA. Junior Bridgman is a multimillionaire now, and the money is made post-career. He owned franchises, Wendy's, or he made himself into a mogul, a Russell mogul, and he's a multimillionaire. Okay, Now, I've done something just for fun, and that is I added up the total points scored by the guys that Wilt was traded for, and the total points career scored by the guys that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was traded for. So Wilt was traded for a total of 6 people. 6 people. All right. Newman, Schaefer, Durking, Chambers, Clark, and Imhoff.
Right.
They career totaled 35,619 career points. 35619. Kareem was traded for 4 guys. Elmore Smith, Brian Winters, Dave Myers, and Junior Bridgman. Their total is 32,744. So Wilt's guys only scored fewer than 3,000 more points, his 6 than Kareem's 4. So I just thought I'd throw that one out there. Okay. Well, now, one other guy that was traded at that high level was Shaq. I forgot about that. Shaq was actually
once.
Yeah, he was traded twice. And I didn't go over numbers, but I'll give you this. Shaq's first trade was in 2004 to Miami, for whom they obtained Lamar Odom, Caron Butler, Maurice Banks, and Sean Marion. That's a pretty good haul. That's a fair.
No, that was a very good haul. I mean, who was the first guy you mentioned? He played at Rhodey. Lamar. He was a hell of a 6 man.
Yeah, and of course he became more famous when he married a Kardashian, but that's another story. But he was as famous in the pop culture world as he is in the NBA world, because of that. All right. Caron Butler, another UConn guy, Maurice Banks, who was drafted originally by the Celtics, and Sean Marion. Okay, that was the first trade. His second trade was on the June 25th, 2009 to Cleveland. Traded for Ben Wallace, Sasha Pavlovich, and a 2010 number 2. He was traded for a Hall of Famer. Ben Wallace is in the Hall of Fame. You realize that? That people don't realize that.
I do realize that. I remember that. I do. You reminded me of it because he got in for his defense, shot blocking.
Defense and rebounding. He got in and he gave one of the great memorable speeches in all of Hall of Fame induction history. He was funny. He was very good. Okay. So there you go.
Let me stop you for a minute. DJ's in the Hall of Fame, right? Posthumously?
Yes.
Okay, if anybody gives you grief about DJ being in the Hall of Fame, look at Ben Wallace. And if I'm Cedric Maxwell, I'm pissed I'm not in the Hall of Fame.
All right. So
hey, I want to stop you. I just looked something up. You mentioned the guys that were traded for Kareem and Wilt. They were like 32 and 35,000 points. Kareem scored 38,000.
That's right. He outscored all those guys.
300. So he outscored all those guys. Anyways, go ahead.
Now, thanks to my old friend and the greatest, maybe arguably the best NBA writer ever, Peter Vesey, he points out a trade that I've forgotten about, and that is Mose Malone for Caldwell Jones, even up. And that was made on the night, September 15th, 1982. And what happened is he had just signed on as a free agent, and Houston matched it. He was with Houston. And then after that, they traded him after they matched the trade. Right. So he's for Caldwell Jones and a 1983 number 1. Now, who was Caldwell Jones? Because people forget now.
I remember playing with Billy Cunningham.
He was 32 years old at the time. He's one of the famous Jones brothers. There were 4 of them, and he was an all-defensive first-team guy twice, and was he was a 6'11" guy. He was a defensive ace. There's no question. Not a defensive ace. Still not worthy of not equal to Mose Malone. And
no.
And of course, Moses went from there to Philly and had an MVP year, and they won the championship.
Right.
And so that was a great trade. And Houston got, didn't get a great benefit out of it. I'm trying to remember what that was all about. I have to look it up. Why Moses? Why at that point? I don't know, but they did. So that's it. Now, people.
Bob, let me stop you for a second. If you want to look it up, I'm going to give you a chance to breathe and just tell you about Gametime. The Gametime. All you do, listen. I've told this story before. Especially if you're in another city, you download the Gametime app. You just put in the city you're in. You're looking for tickets at night. Boom. I've done it. It works, and it's so easy to do when you have the Gametime app. Game Time Picks makes it even easier because it filters out all the fluff so you can get right to your spot, customize your spot. This is where I want to go. This is what I want to do. This is how much I want to pay. And it saves you all the trouble of sifting through thousands and thousands of screens, if you will. On-time ticket delivery, seat views before you buy, lowest price guarantee, the super deal, which gives you the best deal of that day, event cancellation. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guarantee.
There was one trade for sure of Hall of Famer for Hall of Famer, but you can argue at what level of celebrity and of basketball greatness. Dennis Johnson for Paul Westphal.
Right.
And so throw that in the hopper as a trade.
And that was the Suns in Seattle, right?
Yes. Now there's one other that just hit my head as we're speaking. I had not prepared this. I just thought about this. I got to double check. I'm not sure. Is Charlie Scott in the Hall of Fame?
Ooh, good question. Yeah.
If he is, means Westphal was twice traded for a Hall of Famer. How about that one, folks? And I think he is, but I meant to check. You're looking it up. Charlie Scott.
Westfall's in the Hall of Fame, right? Bob, Westfall's in the Hall of Fame, right?
Yes, he certainly is.
Yeah, okay. Charlie Scott was inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame in 2018. There you go.
So, Paul Westphal was twice traded for a Hall of Famer.
There you go.
And now the trade was actually multiple. There was a couple, back with this, but it was like this Zach LaVine and trade, and we don't care about the other people or whatever. But anyway, so how about that? That's an interesting one. It's like one of my favorite little tidbits is that Mel Counts was traded for 2 Hall of Famers, Bailey Howell once, and for Gail Goodrich a second time, even up. So throw that one in the hopper.
Bob, you're a wealth of knowledge, my friend. Bob Ryan, this trade history lecture brought to you by Prizepicks by the professor, or the commissioner, as he is known. The exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network. Pick more, pick less with Prizepicks. Bob, great stuff. Thank you.